What is going on, everybody? We finally got Agent 28 revealed, as well as a brand new cinematic trailer. And as you know, I'm already all over the cinematic trying to piece together what's happening to bring you guys the newest continuation to the lore story of Valorant. Before I dive into the lore of Waylay, I want to note that this lore is only going to cover the cinematic trailer for her, because we still have to wait for her release to get all her voice lines as well, which will uncover much more about her past. So stay tuned for when I make the entire lore video on her, but for now, I hope you guys enjoy this lore breakdown on her cinematic. I'll play the cinematic trailer for you guys first, and then go on to explain what is happening.
Let's go, fam.
Good to see you haven't changed, T. We got work to do.
Alright, so for some context, we know that Tejo and Waylay were communicating in secret without the knowledge of the protocol, as shown in this clip over here. And after Tejo had been with the protocol for a short time, he had already concluded that the agents in the protocol were not ready and not strong enough to take on the challenging task that was before them. He doesn't explain what this task is specifically, however in Tejo's reveal cinematic, we got to see several of the protocol agents fighting against a seemingly new type of enemy soldier. These soldiers are associated with Kingdom Industries from Omega Earth, which is the mirror version of Kingdom Corporation that we know of on Alpha Earth. As we watch Waylay cinematic, it looks like the protocol agents broke into a facility with these soldiers in them, but it's not really clear what their goal is. And it happened right after Brimstone seems to use his ultimate smack in the middle of a residential area or some sort of marketplace. Not cool, Brim. From what it looks like, these soldiers working for Kingdom Industries have been storing Radianite in these canisters, which is something rather new that we haven't seen usually, as typically we see them in these boxes. We can also see what looks like several inactive teleporters here as well lined up, which brings an interesting theory. It looks like Kingdom Industries and Valorant Legion from Omega Earth could be planning a mass invasion. To break it down, they've been coming into Alpha Earth much more frequently, and other than their usual plans of stealing Radianite to save their own world, they've been progressing in different ways. Now we have them storing Radianite in these sites on Alpha Earth as well as building teleporters. Why do they need multiple teleporters on Alpha Earth like this? They already enter and exit as they please, but it looks like they're planning something much bigger. As I explained in my video in the Mirrorverse between Alpha and Omega Earth, we know that Omega Earth is dying and currently in an apocalyptic state ever since the First Light event. In order to save their world, the Valorant Legion on that Earth need Radianite to power these massive hubs which are housing people and providing them with oxygen, food, and other basic needs to stay alive. However, the Radianite on their world is running out and they do not have enough to keep everything running. So what they do is they come into Alpha Earth, steal the Radianite that they can, and then take it back to their world to use to keep everything running. Otherwise, everyone will end up dead. It basically sounds like the agents from Omega Earth aren't bad at all, but rather the agents from Alpha Earth are the villains because they're stopping another civilization or a whole nother world from saving themselves. And if anything, they're kind of aiding in the loss of human life on another world, so it's kind of a confusing situation here. Anyways, moving on in the cinematic, we can see that these agents are struggling to fight against these soldiers, and honestly, I kind of think the cinematic doesn't do a very good job in demonstrating a difficult situation for them. Like, there are other cinematics where they're in even tougher situations and they can fight through that and come out victorious. But like, come on, they're just in a warehouse which is kind of dark and they can't fight back against these weird soldiers who aren't even special. And what Riot does here is try to prove that what Tejo had said to Waylay about the protocol is true and that they're not ready for what's about to come. Because in the cinematic we can see them struggling to fight, they're all stuck in their spots, and Waylay comes in solo and literally takes them all out by herself. And after she bails them out, the rest of the protocol agents are able to fight as well, but by the end we can see that they're visibly injured, with Raze holding her shoulder and Phoenix being knocked down to the ground. Even Tejo looks back at Brimstone, who's limping, in a way where it's like, see, I told you she's really good. Pretty sad scenes for our duelists, honestly though. But I do really like the little interactions that Waylay has here with Phoenix, because it does signify that they may know each other or even be related to each other, as we had previously suspected. But I think for this, we do need to wait for her to be added to the game so we can go through her voice lines and interactions to learn more about her background. And at the very end, after Waylay greets her friend Tejo, which we already know they share a history together, Waylay addresses the rest of the protocol agents and says that we got work to do before dashing away. I think what's going to happen here is that Waylay and Tejo are going to brief the Valorant protocol leaders, Brimstone, Viper, Sage, and Omen, about how dangerous their situation is with Omega Earth, even though they kind of already know, and how the protocol themselves are not ready to take on the big challenge coming. Since Waylay is a duelist and how Tejo tells her that they can't be compared to her in terms of skill, I think that Waylay could go on to train the protocol to get ready for their upcoming fight with Omega Earth. Since she clearly has a lot of skills in combat, it would only make sense that her addition in the protocol be used to train the fighting skills of other agents, particularly the younger duelists, and make sure everyone is ready to take on whatever comes their way. But there is a lot more that we have yet to learn about this new agent, like how she knows Tejo and whether or not she has connections with Phoenix. Since Waylay's lore is closely tied into Tejo's lore as they know each other very closely, she could also be somehow connected to Brimstone, as we know that Tejo and Brimstone used to be friends and fought together in war. There are a lot of really big questions that surround Waylay which we don't yet have the answers to, but are very important to not only how her lore is shaped, but also how it could progress the entire lore of Valorant. I think the most important two questions to ask about her are how she became a Radiant in the first place, and how she knows about this new faction of soldiers. The way she enters in the battle, takes them all out really easily, and then simply tells the protocol that they need to get going, tells me that she feels a sense of urgency to move on and stop the big threat that they are facing. Even though there was no sign of Valorant Legion from Omega Earth themselves in this cinematic, this new faction of soldiers were much more stronger than the protocol ever dealt with, as they were clearly overwhelmed. And on a final note about Waylay that we have yet to uncover is what her connection is to the Lotus Flower that we continuously saw throughout her teasers. Personally, I refuse to believe that the whole Lotus Flower thing was tied into a bundle, but I think it has something to do with the lore itself. Maybe Waylay could be tied into the lore story on the map Lotus, or it could be yet another hint of another agent, but I think that's a stretch, so we're gonna leave that aside. Stay tuned for my second video on Waylay's lore, where I go much more into depth once we have her voice lines and some backstory. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on that video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, drop a like if you did, and don't forget to comment your thoughts down below. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.